Evening, folks, and welcome to yet another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Evans, aka Start and Park Car on Twitter. It's great to be back here on a beautiful Wednesday night here in Iowa with another fun episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I just repeated the title because that's how I like to do my intros. No botches, just straight through it. We got a fun show for you guys today. Just a race review today, no preview show, as the ARCA Racing Series is getting a much-needed and well-deserved weekend off because a lot of these low-budget guys and even the high-budget teams at some point deserve a weekend off. And ARCA, I believe they've been going on strong for about 5 weeks now, so it's good to see that the teams are getting a weekend off. But anyway, we're here to review a very, very wild race in Michigan and go over some ARCA news and some more fun things. And so I'll go through my little intro I like to do on the show, and then we'll get right into it. All right. So, of course, you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Start and Park Car. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 385 subs. When we get to 500 subs, I will be doing a personal giveaway from stuff in my personal collection, and I really want to reward you guys for being loyal subs. So let's get up to 500. We're only 115 away. Of course, check out my friends and my bosses over at the Racing Experts. Racing Experts, the #1 website for all NASCAR content. And, of course, all my friends, check out their channels as well. NASCAR Man, Brockbeard, and ARCARacing.com themselves. They are my good friends, and they make this happen. And, yeah, give them a check out because they deserve it. So let's get right into it, guys. Michigan International Speedway, and what I thought was one of the best Michigan ARCA races I had seen in a while. And I think a race that really just personifies the thing that I've always said about good ARCA races. If we could just get 15 or 20 more cars, what a difference. Even just 5 more, what a difference it would make. I've met a lot of haters. I've interacted with a lot of people who are still very negative about the series and wonder why it still exists. But I did not get anyone who really disagreed with me that what we saw on Saturday evening was a bad race. You cannot tell me that was a bad race when you have cars side by side for multiple laps running different lanes, cars drafting up to each other and pulling away from each other. It was great racing. So you cannot tell me that it was a bad race. We also had our biggest car count in a long time, which was good to see. We had few starting parks, which was also good to see. Unfortunately, though, it was a rough one for the backmarkers. A lot of the backmarkers struggled to even finish. And unfortunately, good friends over at Kimmel Racing lost yet another race car this season, unfortunately. And, of course, we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. To start off, the entry list, we had 21 cars. Kind of, again, if you guys watched last week's episode, I went over it briefly, the Michigan preview. 21 cars, our biggest entry list since 2018, which was good to see because 2019, I believe we only had 18. 2020, we had an abysmal 17, and last year we had 20. So for this season, to get 21 was also very solid. Unfortunately, despite getting 20, we would not actually 21. We actually wouldn't start 21. If you guys follow Zachary Tinkle, please give him a follow as well. One of the more interactive ARCA drivers and a fellow supporter of this channel. Zachary Tinkle's team, it's the old car that they had gone from Richmond Racing. The engine issues with it, I guess, were just too much. We'll get into their issues as we get into the practice results. But, last minute going over the entry list, we had some returning people. We had Morgan Baird, who usually comes out to run the Michigan race for Andy Hillenberg. Jeffrey Magzink was back again this season. Cody Coughlin was back for the first time in 7 years. Jason Kitzmiller was back for the first time, I believe, since Pocono. And Brett Holmes was back for the first time since Talladega. So a lot of people returning. And Corey Heim was back in the 20 as well. But going into the practice results, we'll go ahead and get right into the 06's issues. Apparently, the car caught fire on the track. They had to get the car towed in. And despite the team's best efforts, unfortunately, they decided it was best to withdraw the entry rather than try to fire up the car and try to run the whole race and risk losing the whole motor. And frankly, I think, from a low-budget team perspective, I think we can all agree that that's probably a better move. Because if you're questionable on if the motor's really going to make it, why try to run? Why try to, risk blowing it up, especially when you're on Wayne's budget and you don't exactly have a fresh motor you can just throw right in there. Oh, it blew up. Let's throw another one in. That's not Wayne's budget. Considering they're also trying to get another Toyota entry ready for this season and possibly next season, they really don't want to waste any motors or any parts. So as much as it sucks, the Peterson 06 entry, although it took some practice laps, didn't participate in qualifying and did not participate in the race, but despite running practice times, did get credited with last place owner's points. In ARCA, if you at least run a practice lap, you will be credited as a DNS, which we would qualify as a did not start. And that is why if you go to the racing reference page, you will see that the 06 is still listed there as a did not start, because if you take a practice lap, it counts. So in case you guys were always curious about that, why you always see the did not starts listed in the finishing results instead of the withdrawn area, the failed to qualify withdrawn area, that's why. So yeah, that sucks for Tinkle's team. Sammy Smith clearly showing the pace. I thought personally it was just going to be Sammy Smith domination all weekend with him running the Xfinity race. I picked Corey Heim to win, but I guess I had completely forgotten that this race was on Sammy Smith's schedule for Xfinity. I thought he was just going to dominate like crap. So Sammy Smith won practice, not by a lot, by about a tenth over Sanchez. Kruth was third. Heim was surprisingly fourth. Brett Holmes was fifth. Dye was sixth. Now, I'm not sure if it was in practice or if it was in qualifying, but the 43 of Dye would also take a really, really hard hit into the turn one wall. To my knowledge, though, the team did not have to go to a backup car. They just simply, I think they repaired it, which begs the question, how much damage to the car was there? Obviously, with practice and qualifying not being shown on TV, I don't believe there were any at-track pictures of the damage as well. So maybe it was just minor cosmetic damage that they had to sit out qualifying for. Because obviously, in ARCA, even the big teams don't like using their backup cars. They're just not as well prepared. The Venturini cars and Gibbs, yeah, I bet they are good. I would not be shocked that the backup cars are definitely good. But at the same time, Gibbs, KBM, and Venturini, the last thing they do want to do is use their backup cars because they're just not as good. So it makes sense that the 43 team, no matter how much damage there was, would try to fix this entry because it was their best bet. And what we would clearly see in the race is that, sure enough, it was indeed their best car by a long shot. It actually performed a lot better than I thought it would, considering that the Chevys have actually been struggling this season on the bigger tracks. So yeah, only 16 of our 21 cars participated in practice. In qualifying, we had 18 of our 21 entries participate there. The 65 of Jeffrey Magzink didn't participate in really any of the sessions. It made me worry that the car wasn't going to start, but maybe they were just having inspection issues. I wasn't sure, but they did start the race. Corey Heim won the pole handedly over Sammy Smith by a half a second. He won the pole. Very impressive speed, as usual, out of the 20 car. That car has just been performing like a rocket ship this season whenever Corey's in it. Sammy was second. Brett Holmes was third. Raja Kruth was fourth. Nick Sanchez was fifth. Gustine was sixth. Amber Balkin with a very surprising qualifying effort in seventh. Cody Coughlin was eighth. Jason Kitzmiller was ninth. And Greg Van House was 10th. Bringing up the rear, Tim Monroe, starting parking for Andy Hillenberg. Great segment, by the way. Shout out to Tim Monroe. He got a great segment during the race, talking about his time working there and driving, doing the starting parks for Andy himself. Alex Clubb was 17th, Brad was 16th, and Dallas Fruway was 15th for the lower guys. So we get into the race, obviously the most fun part of the day. The race started immediately, again, with only 20 cars on the grid. Corey Heim, it looked like it was just going to be another Corey Heim show, and I really appoint this race very similar to Kansas. Kansas started out the exact same way. the 20 car of Heim just pulling away. Now, it wasn't by a lot, maybe by about a second or two, but it really wasn't by much. It was Corey Heim leading. Sammy Smith, he had to go to the rear. Did he have to go to the rear, I believe? I wasn't sure if he did or not. But I think that was actually on a pit stop. It was the 43 that went to the rear. He got his way up to the top 10 very fast. Sanchez, Carruth, Dean, and Smith were all battling from about second to fifth. They were trading spots back and forth. It was very clear that the Rev Racing cars had their cars skewed out the most. And that Sanchez, even within the first 5 laps of the race, you could tell he was not running the bottom of the track. They had sprayed down that really stupid PJ1 stuff on the track to try to get Michigan extending out the groove, if you guys know what I mean. And it did work a little bit. And especially after the Xfinity race, it had finally started to come in. And Sanchez, you could see it the entire race, had really started to get that middle groove going to the point where he really was clicking off some amazing lap times in a car that, we saw from Raja's speed that the Rev Racing entries really didn't have the cars to beat once again. Even though Nick Sanchez did win this race, he did not have the car to beat. Not by, I don't even think he had the third best car to beat. He won it, I think, simply based because he's a very talented driver, and I hope we see him get some more chances in the future, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do for Big Machine Racing. I don't know if you guys remember that announcement, but Nick Sanchez will be doing races in the 48 car, which I'm really excited for. But moving on, of course, our starting parks of the day, Tim Monroe, Dallas Freeway, those guys pulled off, so we were immediately down to 18 cars on track. They did catch the back of the field very quickly, I will mention. I don't know if something wrong with Alex Clubb's car, but him and Brad were running about the same lap times, about 7 seconds a lap, 6 to 7 seconds a lap off the pace, which is not very good. I love those guys. Obviously, Alex is the best. I love Brad. But, it's safe to assume, I'm not afraid to say it, they were, in the way. Luckily, Michigan's got plenty of room. They were able to hold their lines. It's not like they caused a huge crash. They didn't, but was kind of surprising to see just how far off the pace they were and if they were actually holding it wide open. But obviously, Brad, the 48 has had a leaked radiator for a long time, so maybe they just didn't want to run the car that hard. But I'm curious to why Alex was that slow. I figured the 03 would have a little bit more speed in that. But I'm going to cut Alex some slack because it was his first time at Michigan, I believe. And maybe he just didn't want to take any chances. And that's understandable, considering when you only have one car like he does. So, yeah, the race was going on. This 20 was still leading like crap. The field had gotten pretty spread out. The top 6, top 7 had really kind of separated from the rest of the group. 8th was Amber Balkin, and she was about 25 seconds on back. She was running with the 72 of Coughlin and the 35 of Van Alst. They were kind of in their own group, about 30 seconds behind the field. Again, running in the mid-pack. Sanchez had gotten up to second. He was battling with Dye. Brett Holmes, it was clear that Brett Holmes also didn't have a winning car. He had a great suck-up car. He was one of those, I don't know if you guys have played the video games before, I'm sure you have, but you have that one car that can suck up like crap. But then the moment you get out front, you cannot hold the lead. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying there, but that's kind of the car that Brett Holmes had in this race. Anytime he would get out in front of the field, he couldn't hold it. I don't know what it was. He could suck up to the car, but when he got out front, it's like the cars behind him just had, I don't know, more of a push, more of a drafting help, but the 23 just could not hold the lead. Anytime he tried to go for the lead, he would stall out. Anytime he got the lead, he would stall out. And they would repass him back just a couple laps later. But yeah, the first 23 laps, I would say, were the most boring part of the race. And that's not really, and that's not trying to be rude because there was a lot of great battles from 2nd through 6th. It was very clear that although the 20 was pulling away, the 2, the 18, and the 23 had the other best cars. And the 43 of Dye, he just needed to get to a first caution to get up with them because He had made his way up to 8th. The problem is that it took him so long to get to 8th that by the time he got to 8th, the other cars were already, I think it was actually 7th. By the time he had gotten to 7th, the other cars were already about, 6, 7 seconds ahead, and he's not going to run him down by himself, unfortunately. So luckily there was a caution coming, but we would get one before the first stage break. And boy, she's had a rough season. 23 laps into the race, our first caution would come out. Amber Balkan has crashed again. And boy, it's sad to see. She had a really good start to this season. She had, I think, top 20s, most top 10s, top 15s, most of her starting season. But ever since Berlin, man, it has been a really rough go. I believe this marks 3 straight crash DNFs. Now, she's got loyal sponsorship from Icon Vehicle Dynamics, but you got to wonder at some point, man, I'm not trying to be rude to the team, but when are you going to get the sponsor budget, hit the sponsor budget point? Because, man, they have really exhausted a lot of parts from 5-star bodies trying to fix those cars. And she didn't even hit the wall that hard, and the problem is another crash that wasn't Amber's fault. She went into turn 1. I believe she blew a right front tire. You know, that's not her fault. It's just more bad luck for the team. And it sucks for Amber because she was legit running 8th. I mean, had it played out the way it did today, Amber probably would have gotten a top 10 finish. So that's kind of a shame because Amber really did crash out of a top 10 finish in that race. And unfortunately continues to fall further and further in the points and is pretty much stuck now in 6th place. Unless Sammy Smith catches her, and I think he's only about 70 points behind. So, yeah, Amber got out. She was okay, but it sucks to see a competitive car out this early. That kind of took us down to 17 cars. And it was after this moment that the race really started to pick up. Unfortunately, though, I don't know what happened. They used this caution for some reason as like the lap 30 competition. And I didn't quite understand that. You know, some ARCA caution flags usually last about 3 or 4 laps. But for some reason, it's like they took this caution on lap 23. And I guess they're like, well, we got a stage break at lap 30, so let's just run caution laps. So we never went back to green. So technically, this was a 14-lap caution period, which was ridiculous, especially at the time of day we were running this race, considering that darkness was coming very fast. And here we are just running 14 laps under caution. So that I felt was a little unnecessary. But we got the pit stops done. We did have a change for the lead. During that, Brett Holmes had gotten out front. The free pass under that run was the 35 of Greg Van Alst. And they took the restart, and it's like what I mentioned earlier. For some reason, Brett Holmes' car was a great suck-up, but the moment he would get out front, he just couldn't keep the lead. Even though he got a good jump on the restart, Nick Sanchez immediately took the lead away. But as quickly as he took the lead away, 2 laps later, Brett Holmes took the lead right back. Again, this was where the race really picked up, and we got some just phenomenal racing, in my opinion. You know, Nick Sanchez, he took the lead. Then he got it for 9 laps. Sammy Smith, he caught up to him. He took the lead. And then Nick Sanchez took the lead right back is because the way that Nick Sanchez, and he was doing this so smartly, like, you look at the way Nick Sanchez was running this race. He was running it like a veteran driver. He did the classic, fine, if you're going to pass me, fine. But you're not going to go to the outside. You're going to have to go on the inside. And with this ARCA drafting package at a track like Michigan, you really, really had to get a run going into 1 and pull a slide job. And, Sammy Smith, he kept trying. He would get up there, throw that sucker into turn 1, and it wouldn't stick. Nick Sanchez would pull back ahead. 18 of Sammy Smith would get another run, throw that sucker into turn 1. It wouldn't stick. It was really, really good racing. That's what I like to see. And it's amazing how Nick Sanchez, despite being so young and so really inexperienced, his only second season of ARCA, racing like a veteran out there. And that is races like that. I really hope he caught someone's eye. And, he did make some starts for BJ McLeod and, little off topic, but he was put in the 42 today. The 9 car is open for next season. I would really love to see Nick Sanchez get some starts in the junior motorsports equipment because he really improved me in this race. Proved to me in this race that he knows what it takes to get it done. But it was really, really good racing watching Brett Holmes, Nick Sanchez, and Daniel Dye and Corey Heim racing all around each other, trading spots lap after lap after lap. Every one of them getting runs on each other, throwing it into the corners, hoping it sticks. I mean, it was only 4 to 5 cars, but yet it felt like it was like 15 because they were just trading positions all the time. It was just phenomenal. And I wasn't trying to, like overhype. It really was good. Like I want to find someone who didn't like this action. And it was way better than the Xfinity race. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys who watch this show also watched that Xfinity race. That race was a dud, in my opinion. It really wasn't that good. And that ARCA race with half the field was blowing it away. But yeah, so the race continued on. Nick Sanchez had gotten the lead again. And again, Sammy Smith, he clearly had the better car again. Even though Nick Sanchez didn't have the best car, because he was holding off the 20 and the 18 who were clearly faster than him. He was running the correct line, so the 18 and the 20 couldn't get by, even though the 18 and the 20 themselves kept flipping positions. Excuse me. But finally on lap 62, just 9 laps before the caution had come out, and this was kind of the period where, we have seen this in a lot of ARCA races, when the tires eventually get old and handling really starts to come into play, you started to see them break apart. The 23 of Holmes, he faded away. The 6 of Carruth, he faded away. The 15 of Dean, he faded away. And Sanchez's car really started to fade away, and you saw the power of that 20 car of Corey Heim. Even despite hitting the wall on a restart, the composite bodies didn't hurt the car in any way. And Corey Heim was able to come up there, set him up into turn 1, throw a slide job, and had it stick. Corey Heim takes the lead with 9 laps to go in the second stage. Corey Heim then would lead up until the lap 70 caution, which was the final competition caution of the day, where Greg Van Elst would once again get the free pass. By this point, we had a couple other cars who were having issues. Alex Clubb was having handling issues. Apparently, they were having weight issues. I read on Club Racing's Facebook page they were having issues with like maybe weight, or was it mechanical? I wasn't sure, but they were begging with the ARCA officials to let them back out on the track. But unfortunately, the ARCA officials didn't let them back out on the track and were forced to park the car. So I hate what happened to Alex Clubb. They've just had nothing but horrible luck. And I'm hoping they can get the car fixed and ready for the next race. Luckily, like I said, they got that week off, so I'm sure they'll be able to get the car done. By the way, also brief announcement, Casey Carden, who drove for them at Mid-Ohio, will be driving for them again at the Glen. So yeah, they came back from there. Brad Smith, he had also been on and off pit road. Not sure what was wrong, but I think the radiator is still leaking on the car. They've been having that issue for a couple of races now. We were having that issue at Iowa, but luckily the car was able to finish. But yeah, the 2 underdogs were struggling. So we came back from the competition caution, just 24 laps to go. And man, I wanted another 50 laps out of this thing. But yeah, 24 laps to go. Corey Heim took the lead. He wouldn't hold it for long, though. It was all about restarts. Sammy Smith rocketed into the lead, but he would hold it for just 1 lap as Nick Sanchez, who got a huge shove from Corey Heim, rocketed out into the lead. He held it for 2 laps. And then here came Corey Heim. He got the lead on lap 79. He would hold it for 11 laps. But in there, we actually had a caution. I almost forgot to bring it up, so sorry about that. On lap 76, coming to lap 77, we had our second and last racing accident of the day, the 97 and 69. They were actually, I believe, I'm not sure if they were two separate incidents. I'm not sure if we ever got a replay. I don't remember seeing one. But the 97 and 69 came together. The 69, unfortunately, got severe damage to the car. The 97 continued. And unfortunate luck for the Kimmels again. If you guys saw it on my Twitter page, I did post it from the Kimmels. Got some sad news from Will Kimmel. That car 102, the car that Melton was driving, is now done. The front and rear clips of the chassis are bent. And unfortunately, I mean, I'm not high into that kind of stuff, but I guess if the chassis is bent, that's pretty much it. You can't really do much with it. I don't think you can bend it back into shape. So unfortunately for Kimmel Racing, that is now the second car that has been destroyed this season, as the Talladega car, that was totaled. But unfortunately, now another car has been totaled. So Kimmel Racing, man, they've struggled a lot this season and now have lost two cars in their part-time efforts, which sucks to see because Bill and Will work so hard. And Scott Melton himself has really tried his best to improve his driving style. So just sucks to see. But I'm not quite sure what happened in the crash. But yeah, we went back to green with just 10 laps to go, and Nick Sanchez took the lead immediately on the restart. It was all about that last restart. He got the lead, and it was just an amazing 10 laps to go. It was really solid. Again, it was the same thing before. Here came the 20. He would get alongside, but there's the 20. He would get the run off the corner. Here comes the 18 because he would move up to second. Couldn't get alongside, and he would pull away. And then, like the 20, he had to pit. He came back through the field. And on the white flag lap, there was the 20 of Corey Heim. He had a huge run going into turn one. And I'm like, are they going to take each other out? I thought for sure the 20 was going to throw it in there. It wasn't going to stick. And the top two are going to take each other out. And Sammy Smith wins. But surprisingly, in that last 10-lap run, the 18 of Smith started to fade. I mean, he surprisingly faded fast. He had fallen all the way to sixth place, which was very unlike the car of Sammy Smith. He had fallen behind the 15 and the 6th of Carruth and the 23 of Holmes, who unfortunately got really roughed up by the 20 of Heim during that last run, causing Brett to lose all his momentum. And with such a short run, Brett couldn't get his momentum back in time to catch back up to the field, and would unfortunately have to settle for 7th place. A little bit of a spoiler there. But, yeah, man, they were just trading the lead like crap. Came to the white flag. The 20 had a huge run. Threw it into one, but it would not stick. Again, went so high in turn one. On turn two, I believe, he had to let off the gas. And that was pretty much it for Nick Sanchez right there. Clearly did not have the car to beat. He had talent. Nick Sanchez gets yet another win in the ARCA Menard Series. And all I just have to say is very, very impressive victory by Nick Sanchez. This win was, I'm believing, solely based off of talent, not the car. And you could see it after the race. That poor man was exhausted. Nick Sanchez was wholeheartedly exhausted. He could barely speak in his post-race interview. But yeah, what a victory for that team. And just what an impressive drive from not having the best car. Luckily had the issues with the 20 having to pit twice. The 18 for some reason fading as the race went on. The 43 of Daniel Dye, want to give him a shout out too. He ran outside the top 5 most of the day, but in that last 10-lap run, he got himself all the way up to second. But then coming to the white flag, the 20 of Corey Heim was able to get past him. But still, despite starting almost last, getting up to 19th, from 19th to 3rd, very impressive run by him. Sammy Smith was able to get back past the 15 and the 6, coming to the checkered flag for 4th. Gus Dean was 5th. Raja Carruth, a top 10 is still good, but another, you could call it, disappointing finish. And it's just kind of been the theme with Raja's summer. Not bad runs, but not the finishes the team needs. Brent Holmes down in 7th. Cody Coughlin 8th. Greg Van Elst gets another top 10 in 9th. And a great underdog story for the race. Morgan Baird and Andy Hillenberg get a top 10 finish. And, well, anytime Andy Hillenberg gets a top 10, that has to put a smile on everyone's faces. Tony Breidinger was 11th. Jason Kitzmiller was 12th. D.L. Wilson was 13th. Jeffrey McZink was 14th. Those were the last cars to finish. Everybody else, Melton, Smith, Clubb, Balkin, Moreau, Fruway, and Tinkle failed to finish. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would highly recommend. I give this race a 10. I'm not kidding you guys. I know you're like, well, you're just being biased. I'm not. I really would give this race a 10. And I would highly recommend it if you guys want to go back and watch it. It is thoroughly entertaining. Watching those ARCA cars with that kind of drafting package, trading the lead like that, and just the amazing battle of drafting and running the right line. You may not have had the fastest car, but just using the right line, you were able to keep the lead. It's such, like I said, a veteran maneuver that you would not expect to see out of a young rookie. But yeah, so it's just amazing to see, and you gotta love it. But yeah, point standings following this race. We have a new points leader who's in the thumbnail. Nick Sanchez whole-handedly took the lead. Now has a 7-point lead over Raja Caruth. Daniel Dye is still up there, though. He's only 9 points back in third, so it's still anyone's game. Greg Van Elst finally moved up to 4th in points over Tony Breidinger, minus 84. Tony Breidinger is 5th, minus 85. Amber Balkin is stuck in 6th, minus 120. Brad Smith is in 7th, minus 161. Sammy Smith is 8th, minus 167. Sammy will more than likely overtake Brad in the next race. Taylor Gray is minus 222 in 9th, and D.L. Wilson is minus 233 in 11th. As for the owner standings battle, that battle is definitely a lot closer. With the 20 car getting another solid finish, it still keeps its lead in the owner's points. Billy Venturini's 20 car currently holds a 13-point lead over the number 2 Max Siegel entry. The Kyle Busch 18 entry is in third, minus 16. And this is kind of the surprising one. The Max Siegel 6 entry is now minus 20. That tells you guys, like I was telling you, the 6 entry has really struggled this season. Well, not this season, but this summer. That's what I meant to say. The Murray Gallagher 43 entry is minus 22. And the last car that's really in contention for the Owners' Championship is the Bill Venturini 15 entry, which is minus 26. The other entries are too far behind at this point to really be in contention for the championship. The coveted top 20 ARCA owners bonus for payouts. The top 19 are pretty much all locked in. 19th place holds over 100-point lead over 20th. So the 20th place points is really for anyone's grabbing at this point. Bill Kimmel's 69 entry currently holds the last spot with just a 9-point lead over Eric Caudell's 7 car and a 14-point lead over the Bruce Cook 42 car. But the Kimmel entry, the 69 entry, is only scheduled to run, I believe, about 4 or 5 more races. The 2 dirt tracks with Will, and then I think Melton's doing about 2 to 3 more races. So we'll see if the Kimmels will be able to keep that up to get that bonus, because I don't know how many races Caudell is doing. He's not doing the dirt tracks. Caudell might do Kansas, and I think possibly the season finale, but I don't know how much longer he will be going. But yeah, so those are kind of the point standings there. Definitely the points to watch. Obviously, the top 16 full-time cars, and you got David Gillen 17th. Stacey Holmes is 18th. The Billy Venturini 55 car is actually 19th. So all 4 of the Venturini cars will get the bonus at the end of the year for the Owners' Championship. As for the championship picks, I did pick Nick Sanchez at the beginning of the year. And as it stands right now, I am going to keep that. Obviously, I'm going to keep that. I've said this season that Raja has been struggling, and it's not like he's been struggling to the point where he's running horribly. I mean, it's just by ARCA standards, it's not what he's looking for, and it really started at Iowa. You know, I mean, at Iowa, he finished 12th. He had a tire go down, had to pit under green, and he couldn't recover. And even then, he didn't qualify that well. He finished 12th at Iowa, and you could say, what, 5th is a bad run at Berlin, but his teammates beat him. That's the problem, is that even when he's still having a good run, you can't have your teammates outrunning you. Elko, 7th, but 2 laps down. Mid-Ohio, he had the tire penalty, so he finished 2 laps down there. A solid finish at Pocono of 4th, but again, his teammates and Daniel Dye still beat him. IRP, again, another disappointing finish as his teammates and Daniel Dye beat him. And the same thing happened again at Michigan. So it's not like he's running poorly. It's just even when you're running 5th, like Raja Karuth is, when your teammates are still beating you, your teammates and then your battle for the championship, if they're still beating you, it doesn't matter if you're finishing 4th. If Sanchez and Dye are winning and finishing 2nd, they're still gaining points. So it's like, yeah, it's great that Raja gets a 6th place finish. But you look at Dye, who finished 3rd, and then Sanchez, who wins. That's what makes this championship so exciting. Even a 5th place finish can be considered bad because your 2 championship contenders could finish ahead of you. And that's what I love about this championship battle, and why going to a track like Toledo for the last race, it's what makes me so excited for this championship battle, guys. It will literally go down to the last race. Will we have a 2008 championship saga all over again, like Ricky Stenhouse, Scott Speed, and Justin Allgaier? Who knows? But I hope not, because I remember watching that when I was 7. That was a cluster. We do have a question in the chat. So Caudell is driving for good? No, I'm sorry. Maybe you misheard me. Caudell is not done driving for good. He got pretty beat up in that crash. Poor Eric. He got really beat up in that crash. He'll be back. He's just taking some extra time to heal up. Yeah, poor Eric got pretty beat up. I felt bad for him, but Eric's a tough guy. He's pretty tough. He just, 55 years old, I knew when he got hit, he was going to be out for a while because he was supposed to be at Iowa. Eric, the team even said that they were supposed to run Iowa with the 7 car, but obviously Eric's injuries and with no other paid drivers, the team opted to not run. So, yeah, Eric will be back. I don't think this season. It's kind of late in the season for him to return anyway. I think we'll probably more than likely see Eric at the Daytona test in 2023. But yeah, so that was kind of the race, guys. A lot of great contenders. We're not going to do a preview show, unfortunately, because, well, there is, like I said, we got a week off. The next race, though, is Watkins Glen. I'm excited for that weekend. Last year's race drew 29 cars. I don't know if I should expect more this year. Let's see, how many did we have for Mid-Ohio? Anyone remember? What, 25? 26? If we could get around that same number to around 30 cars for Mid-Ohio, that would be really good. Last year's, I would say again, Watkins Glen race last year was probably one of the top 3 races of the year. So let's see here. The Xfinity Series and the Truck Series will be there. So you got to wonder, will we see the McAnally entries back again with Jack Wood, Colby Howard, and Blaine Perkins? I could see that again. I don't think it's really far-fetched to say that we could have 30 entries for Watkins Glen. I know Dr. Ed Bull, he will be back. I can confirm that right now. He will be there. Let's see here. Who else will be there? I just can't think of it. Can't think of another entry right now. I doubt we'll see any Cup drivers. Obviously, with the Xfinity Series and Truck Series there, they would rather run those circuits than the ARCA Series. And that's kind of what I also hate. You go back to the days of you go back to the days where it was just ARCA and the Cup Series. You would see some Cup drivers running ARCA to get some extra experience. And I always wonder, we go to a track like that. Wouldn't that be cool to see Hendrick Motorsports with like an ARCA team? Again, that would be so cool. But yeah, and even then, Hendrick Motorsports, they are running that Xfinity race as well. So yeah, no chances of seeing a Cup driver. And I don't see an Xfinity driver as well, but I would definitely say you will probably see at least 3 to 5 truck drivers in the field for sure. We also got the return of the ARCA West Series. They are actually returning on the very same weekend as the main series are going to be at the Glen. That'll be the West's first race in quite a while. The next East race, of course, is not until Milwaukee, way down the line. But yeah, the West Series is coming back at Evergreen, and the main series, of course, will be at Watkins Glen. So yeah, that kind of wraps up the show for you guys today. Again, not a big show as usual. Again, I want to clarify again, guys. We got 385, trying to get to 500. So if you guys could please like and subscribe to the channel, that would be great. I do want to, for the people who are watching and for the people who are future watching this podcast, we will be here tomorrow again. Not at 6, but we will be here at 7. We have had a lot of interesting underdog issues and announcements that I would actually like to talk about. So if you guys are free tomorrow night at 7 p.m., join me right here on the ARCA NASCAR Start and Park Car YouTube channel. And yeah, we'll be happy to discuss it. Some of the topics will be some interesting sponsors coming into the sport. We have a cheese car again, and we are going to go over the G2G situation because it has gotten a lot more spicier. Not for the better, unfortunately. And a lot more of that stuff, and we will go over some more giveaways and stuff. And yeah, it's just a good time. So if you guys are free tomorrow night, I would hopefully you guys can join me there. But yeah, again, I apologize for not a real action-packed show this week, kind of subdued, mainly because, we don't have a preview show and not a lot of news. It's kind of a slow news week for ARCA as well. Pretty much that happened was just the race. Now, and that's kind of odd because usually you'll have some ARCA announcements with the preview show and some news. But yeah, so just a little show for you guys today. 42 minutes in, 5 people watching, only 2 likes. So for the 5 people who are watching, if you could like the video, that'd be much appreciated so we can get it out there to some more people. And to the rest of you guys who future watch this, thank you for supporting the channel. And to the guys who are currently watching this show, again, thank you. Your guys make this happen. You guys make it fun for me. And you guys make this young redhead from Iowa just like to be on YouTube, which I didn't think I'd be doing this 5 years ago. So anyway, guys, I've taken enough time of your Wednesday night. Join me tomorrow night, live 7 p.m. on here on this channel for, I don't know what we're going to call it. Might call it To the Garage. I haven't thought of a name yet. But anyway, join me here live. We'll be talking about some more fun topics. And again, subscribe for giveaways. And go follow ARCA. Go follow Brockbeard. Go follow NASCAR Man. All the great people that make this, channel possible. And we'll catch y'all next week with the ARC Racing Podcast. But again, join me tomorrow. You guys have a good night. We'll catch y'all later. I'm Colby Evans, signing off. So long, guys.